Hello and welcome to Civic Voters Education 2023 on Liberty Television. In every election, citizens' participation is very important. There is the need, therefore, to carry all the segments of the society along in the electoral process. Voter and civic education are necessary to ensure that all constituents, men and women alike, understand their rights, their political system, the contest they are being asked to decide, and how and where to vote. Sit tight as we look at the importance of the bimodal voters accreditation system machine, BVAS, in this episode. This program is facilitated by the Institute for Media and Society and funded by the European Union. You're welcome to the program once again. I am Mariam Zakari. Nigerians, it's time for another election for the citizens to decide on the next political leaders. It's countdown to 2023 elections as Nigeria decides. The Independent National Electoral Commission has unveiled ground rules for a hitch-free, issue-based campaigns with the promise of inclusive democracy for women, people with disability, and youth. INEC recognizes the critical role young people play in deepening democracy. Similarly, the electoral umpire has also promised the use of improved technology, such as the bimodal voters accreditation machine, BVAS, electronic transmission of results, and public display of polling unit results through the IREC. Nigerians, this is the time to rise for the common good. Participation is important. You must participate in this election because citizens' participation gives value to democracy. Election is the citizens' right to elect political leaders for the common good of the country. Therefore, protect and use your permanent voter's card. Your PVC gives you the right to vote. Remember, protect your PVC. Today on the program, we will be looking at the importance of the bimodal voters accreditation machine, BVAS. But before then, let's take the news update.
Hello and welcome to the news segment of Civic Voters Education 2023. My name is Nan Yilmazakar. Stakeholders in the media have demanded more independence for Nigeria's broadcast regulatory body, the National Broadcasting Commission, so that the body can be free from political, economic, and other interferences. This is just as it canvassed for the amendment of all existing laws preventing the freedom of the media in the country. The media stakeholders stated this in a communique issued at the end of a two-day meeting organized in Abuja by the Institute for Media and Society on February 2nd and 3rd, 2023, as part of activities under the support to media component of the European Union Support to Democratic Governance in Nigeria, EU SDGN2 project. And the 8-point communique jointly signed by the Executive Director, Institute for Media and Society, Dr. Akin Akimbulu, and the Chairperson, Communique Drafting Committee, Mrs. Miriam Menkiti, an appeal also went to the National Assembly to take urgent steps towards ensuring that community broadcasting is properly recognized and defined in the laws of the country to better address the polarity of the broadcast sector. The stakeholders also deliberated on the bottlenecks associated with the acquisition of broadcast licenses in Nigeria, and participants canvassed for the removal of all impediments in the National Broadcasting Commission Act so that the process of licensing broadcast stations can begin and end with the NBC. According to the communique, full powers should be granted to the NBC to carry out the full range of its regulatory functions, including the issuance issuance of broadcast licenses according to Section 39, subsection 2 of the Constitution, and the proviso to it should be amended to vest in the Commission the final authority to issue broadcast licenses. The communique also called on the broadcast regulator to put in place measures to ensure that it is always technologically up to date and able to engage and deploy new technologies in the performance of its functions in the light of fast evolving technologies relevant to the broadcast sector, both in Nigeria as well as regionally and internationally. The conference with the theme Conversation between Industry Stakeholders on Issues in Broadcasting Legislative Regulatory Frameworks was attended by different stakeholder groups, including the media industry unions and associations, national legislature, regulators, civil society organizations, media professionals, managers and owners, as well as journalism and media training institutions. The participants expressed gratitude to the European Union and the Institute for Media and Society for the event, which they described as timely and one which provided a platform for the important conversations to take place. The Institute for Media and Society, IMS, has urged the media to improve its focus on the reportage of inclusiveness in the forthcoming general elections. The IMS Executive Director Akin Akimbolu made a call during a 2-day workshop on sharing on good practices and trends and inclusive coverage of the electoral process for media practitioners held in Abuja on Monday. He said the workshop was aimed at refocusing the media to give quality attention to inclusive participation in the 2023 electoral process. He also urged participants at the workshop to work towards providing outcomes that would bridge the gap in inclusive coverage for the electoral process. The Institute's program manager, Timothy Bamidele, explained that the EU SDGN Project 11 was to foster a friendly and all-participatory democratic process in the country. Bamidele said the EU SDGN project for media support was to address the challenges media practitioners face during the coverage and reportage of inclusiveness during the electoral process. According to him, IMS, in a bid to promote inclusiveness in the electoral reportage, has empowered 60 women journalists with digital storytelling skills. Professor Abigail Ogweze Ndisika of University of Lagos, a felicitator, urged the participants to take advantage of the conversation to redefine programming content. Dr. Gainat Tijani Adenel of Lagos State University also in her submission called on the participants to learn new ideas that would lead to improved approaches that would assist the PWD women and youth get the best from the program. Reporters, presenters, news managers and producers shared practical personal experiences in inclusive coverage of electoral process. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has commenced training for the 1.2 million personnel engaged to conduct the forthcoming elections. INEC National Commissioner Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, disclosed in Lagos during the Commission's Voter Education and Publicity Training on Strategic Communication. Okoye noted that the training has become important against the backdrop of the coming into force of a new electoral legal framework for the conduct of elections and the Commission's commitment to infuse technology in the electoral process. He said that the Commission has also beefed up security at its state and local government offices, where sensitive materials for the 2023 general election will be kept 1 week to the poll. Some stakeholders in the media industry have advised journalists planning to cover the forthcoming general elections to prioritize their safety. The stakeholders who spoke separately during the training for journalists on peaceful and non-violent elections organized by Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, CAPA, in Ibadan, Oyo State, insisted that no news report is worth a human life. Resource persons at the training advised journalists to be mindful of the safety and security before, during, and after the 2023 general elections. Executive Director of CAPA, Akimbode Oluwafemi, in his address, thanked the European Union delegation under the EU support for democratic governance in Nigeria Phase 2, EU SDGN 2, for supporting the training. A civil society organization, Yaga Africa, has advocated for affirmative action to be included to free Nigerian youth from financial burden of the highly monetized electoral process. The call was made in a research report on youth political participation in Lagos, launched by Yaga Africa. A professor of political science, Lagos State University, Professor Sylvester Akane, in his presentation of research findings on the level of youth participation in political affairs in Lagos State, said godfatherism, adultism, lack of proper information, among others, discouraged the youth from participating. Akane called on all stakeholders to free the youth from the shackles of political slavery through policy advocacy, planning, and sound decision making. A non-governmental organization, Electier, has expressed worry over politically motivated killing of women active in politics ahead of the 2023 general elections. Chief Executive Officer, CEO, Electier, Ibijoke Faborode, who raised the concern while presenting a new report titled Election Security Assessment, a gender perspective, pointed out that the ban of the Nigerian political space has been low representation of women and when compared to other countries. The report pointed out that the perpetrators of violence against women politicians have been able to carry out their dastardly acts with impunity and none brought to book, as it gave examples of the women leaders who were killed in Kogi and Kaduna State, where the violence is physical, psychological, and emotional. And that's all we can take on the news segment. My name is Nanyu Mazaka. I hand you over back to Miriam Zakari for the rest of the program.
With 12 days until the presidential and national assembly elections, Nigerians have been speaking on the use of the bimodal voters accreditation machine, also known as BVAS. Let's take a listen.
BVAS is a kind of technology that identifies your face as a voter. It's a bimodal machine that captures your face, that's your face, your fingerprint, before you be grant access to cast your vote. And I think it was introduced first during the Ekiti election, and it was used in the Edo election. And last week, the INEC chairman did some mock accreditation. So some of the BVAS machines were working. From what I saw last weekend with the places we visited at Area 10 polling units, NIPOS, and Buhari Area Council, so far so good. The machines are okay. Network was okay. Everything was okay. And from feelers from other reporters who traveled outside of Abuja to cover it also, there was no report of malfunctioning or anything like that. So we are ready for it. I think it didn't malfunction or had any issues because the crowd was not much. But on the 25th, we all know what it's going to be like. A lot of people will come out. So pressure might be on INEC staffs on how to make it good, because it's a technology. We just embrace it. So a lot of people will want to say, I've not seen this, I've not seen that, I've not seen that. So it's something that will need patience and understanding to follow, but it's a good one.
It's a technology being designed by INEC for Nigerians to cast their vote electronically, because if you look at the way Nigeria is going, the country, every other country is going, they are going technologically. That is why Nigeria has to follow suit to follow other countries to go under best practices on that technology. So I think it's a welcome idea, and the way it has been going and people are talking about it is a good process. Last week, Saturday, the INEC tested the BVAS on mock accreditation to test run how the BVAS will work, whether they will have challenges or my first running so that they will prepare ahead the 2 weeks general election that is coming up. And to my best of knowledge and the news that is going on everywhere, the beaver was so smooth. The experience was nice. The machine captured people facial recognition, because without your thumbprint, after thumbprinting, then it will recognize your facial, your facial. And without them, if none of them captured you very well, that means you are not good to go. Either you have a problem in your finger or there's issue. But so far, the machine works fine and it's very fast enough. There's no network issue. Within 3 seconds, the machine has finished with one voter. I think if it works this way in 2 weeks, we won't record any issue of too much line, people waiting to cast their vote, or crowds or anything. So I think the INEC did a very good job.
Beavers, I know it's a verification for election. So though they have said that they have verified it, but we haven't know much about it, because we are looking forward to it, to see it for this 2023 election. So I think we are set, because last time I read online, INEC said that any beaver that they were stolen, they are going to disconnect it from breeding. So I think that will work out if they can really work on it.
What I know about beaver is beaver is an electronic transfer machine which is mainly used for election purposes. And then I know with the availability of beaver in our election, it's going to make our election processes go smoothly, and then there will be free and fair election. It's not going to be like before, where we use a manual electronic machine that we now later on it will be that one vote is not counted, one vote is counted, and that will now later lead to election tribunal cases here and there. But I believe that with the availability of this beavers machine in our election processes, there's going to be free and fair election. And then INEC chairman has assured us that that beaver will enhance their work effectively.
Beavers is a kind of system introduced by INEC to improve on our electoral system, to make things more easy, to avoid all these issues of ringing and others. So with these beavers, you don't need to be collating and be carrying ballot paper here and there. So when you vote, it will be transmitted automatically. So it's a good thing in our electoral system. So it will help us to monitor the voting pattern. So there's no need for you to come and carry ballot paper this time around. So you just vote and automatically is there. So it will, the counting system will be easy this time around. So there's no need to be voting, no fear of maybe stealing ballot papers. That is really one of the things that is going to do for us. It will help us to monitor our papers, our voting system. So I think it's a good development.
Is a technology being introduced by INEC to conduct election? I think INEC started introducing beavers in the Osun elections, and I think it went successful, and I think they are not going back. As at yesterday, INEC met with professors or vice chancellors of universities who are going to be returning officers, and I believe part of the issue that was discussed is concerning beavers. And again now, civil society organizations are also calling the attention of INEC. INEC should lay emphasis on training their staff, the core members, the returning officers, so that everybody can be able to operate the beaver seamlessly.
The beavers introduction by the INEC It's a welcome development. It will checkmate electoral malpractice, and it will make a Nigerian election to have a general accepted, to be generally accepted as free and fair. We are very ready. We are very ready. From all indications, we are very ready. I think the electorate have collected their PVC, and the publicity and campaign is in top gear. And I think we are ready from all indications. And we trust God will get the right person that will do the job for us.
Education, what I know is we did it in Osun State with beavers, and the election was credible. And we also pray that INEC should use the same method they use there to deliver the right person that will move this country to the next fall. Move this country, you understand now, to our dream country, not the one we used to know, the Nigeria of yesterday. So, and the election is by the corner. That yesterday is today here. Election is, let's say, about 14 days to the presidential election. And we pray it don't be a runoff election. Yes, we pray for that. And
The head of voter education and publicity of INEC in the Federal Capital Territory, Agnes Akpe, highlights the functions of the bimodal voters accreditation machine, BVAS, in this interview.
Well, talking about the BVAS is an acronym for Bimodal Voter Accreditation System. Before now, we were using what you call the smart card reader. I guess maybe the smart card reader wasn't smart enough. So we had to go back to the drawing board because INEC has this penchant for improving on the electoral process. And this is driven by its values, core values of transparency and credibility. So when they came back from the drawing board, what they had was what you call the bimodal voter accreditation system. The smart card reader was a monomodal accreditation system. And we discovered some people actually don't have fingerprints, which means they would be disenfranchised. So when they came up with the bimodal, at least we have two things, because every human being has this biometrics, which can be digitally, they are digitally unique to each person. So your facials, nobody can have your face, even your twin, because there are special contours on the face, which is unique to just you and you alone. So this added to the fingerprints is what we use as the bimodal voter accreditation system. What happens with this is that it is used for accreditation, as the name implies. And accreditation is simply the process of ascertaining that a voter is in the register of the polling unit where he belongs, that he's at the right place. Once you have done this, the next process, which is part of accreditation, is the verification and authentication. And this is done by the BVAS. What happens is that a voter will go to the polling units in which is registered, present her PVC or his PVC to the presiding officer, the APO1. The next thing is that the APO1 will tap on the voter's image. Once the smart card reader is put into red by the machine, it will now pop up with your information, with your details and your visuals. And there are two options open to the presiding officer or the official at the point. Either to use the fingerprint scanner or the photo verifier. Even though we said some people don't have fingerprints, but no two people have the same fingerprints. But it's usually much easier to just go ahead with the facials. So they can use the facial scanner and just capture your face and then see if it tallies with the one that they have in the system. With that, you're good to go. To even get to this point, first of all, they take the last 6 digits of your voter's VIN. The VIN is the voter identification number. When they take the last 6 digits and then they put it in the field provided, if you're properly registered in that PU, that's when your details pop up. And then with those details popping up, all he does is to tap on the image displayed, and then those two options are open, either the fingerprints or the facials. And once you're cleared of either of them, you don't need to do the two. If you're cleared of either of them, you're good to go. You'll be given your ballot paper, and then you can go ahead and exercise your franchise. Before you can be allowed to vote, to have the ballot paper, you must have been accredited, you must have been authenticated by the BVAS. And so it eradicates the issue of, okay, somebody came in, somebody used my card and all of that. No, there is no There's no identity, there's no impersonation whatsoever. Identity theft is completely out of it. It ensures that it is one person, one vote. Because even if you bring back your voter's card to the same PU and present it, the beavers will read that you have been here already before and will not allow you to be accredited a second time. And then in terms of ballot snatching, it just doesn't make sense for the people to do that anymore, in the sense that if at all they even manage to go away with our beavers, at the back end there's a system that would stop them from being able to access the information on it, and then we can retrieve the information about the polling unit and then still process everything. Before we had what you call the incident form, people would come, oh, this was my twin sister, and then you bring the person's card and you come. Somehow you may not be able to add it to one, but with this it's one person, one vote, because the beavers must authenticate you. If it fails, which is not likely at all, we have what you call the rack techs, the rack technicians. We have them stationed in strategic places close by, so the moment that happens, a call is put through and then the rack tech would come and then work on the beavers, or otherwise even replace it if need be. So there will be no issues at all.
So it is safe to say we are good to go.
We are good to go. In terms of sensitization, we have saturated the airwaves. We even go as far as going to the area councils. I mean, we have what they call the stakeholders meetings. We meet with the opinion leaders and we tell them to go back and let their people know. And that was also the essence of the accreditation, the mock accreditation, so that they could have a practical example. Besides, we used it during the area council election, February 12th, 2022. So people actually have an idea of the beavers. It's just that they are so used to, okay, let's go back to the past. But that won't work. We have to keep moving forward. It is important that on election day you go out with your PVC. There's been this rumor that's been peddled around that you don't need your PVC. No, you do need your PVC. It is in the Electoral Act that you must present yourself. It's not by proxy. You present yourself and you also present your PVC. We must ascertain that that is your polling unit, and then you can vote. And it is your civic responsibility, not just for yourself, but for future generations. If you do not vote, it's the same thing as saying that you have voted for the wrong person, because you're already given space for the other person to win. But if you know what you want for your country, you want a change, you want certain things, and you know the people that can deliver, please come out and vote. Votes count now, because with the beavers is one man, one vote. Even though the beavers had issues during the FCT area council elections, it was obvious that the votes counted. The people that came out, their votes were what was represented in the result. So our votes will count. Nobody will take away that from you. So please come out and vote.
Thanks for being a part of this episode. Remember, for an election to be successful and democratic, voters must understand their rights and responsibilities and must be sufficiently knowledgeable and well informed to cast ballots that are legally valid. Join us again in the next episode. This program is facilitated by Institute for Media and Society and funded by the European Union. The content of this broadcast do not reflect the views of Institute for Media and Society, nor that of the European Union. We will see you again in the next episode. I am Mariam Zachary. Thank you for watching.